start this now. So hello and welcome. My name is Metamonan and today we are broadcasting round 2 of Bush League Racing's LMP2 series. Let's get right into what we got up for tonight. So into the live scenes we go. So coming up round 2 of Bush League Racing's LMP2 series. Meant to have it up live about 5 minutes ago, but I was a bit curious about what sort of time I was actually at. So here are our event details for round 2. So track we see ourselves at tonight is Hockenheim Classic GP. So first up, we got a 15-minute qualifying session to set the grid for the feature race here. It's a 25-lap race with a mandatory pit stop. Weather for the race, it's all synced. So first up, in the first quarter of the race, we'll have clear conditions. Then we'll transition over to light cloud, then over to clear. And then there'll be a random sequence there. So we could have rain, we could have snow. Who knows? We'll wait and see. So here is the track the guys are racing at today. So basically you can know them by their turn names, but I am not going to pronounce half these corners. I can pronounce the Clark corner at turn 3. That's probably about it. But it's a very fast flowing track in these LMP2 cars. It's one of your classic old style type tracks where once again, the older style cars actually drove around, and unfortunately a lot of people died at this track as well. So we've got a few additions to the original Classic GP with a few additions as well. With a couple of chicanes being added in to slow the cars right down. So we're going to go over to a lap recorded by John Dog. So go on board with him. Here is his cracking lap at Hockenheim GP. There we go.
Okay, hello and welcome. This is John from Bush Racing League. I'm here to take you on a lap of the Hockenheim Classic Ring. Prior to our league race commencing. I'll just start off by telling you a bit about the car and the track. We're using a 2016 JSP2 Nissan, which is an LMP2 class. It runs a V8 Cosworth engine with a 6-speed sequential gearbox. It weighs 900 kilograms and does 0 to 100 in 3.2 seconds with a top speed of around 330 kilometers an hour. So let's get out on the track and I'll take you for a bit of a spin. Okay, we're going into what's called the north corner of the track, which is braking chicane number 1. I won't try and tell you the German name, but I can tell you that if I stay on the track, that it was built in 1970, and prior to this there was no chicanes whatsoever. Need to stay on track. I'm just trying to look at notes as I drive. Braking chicane 2 is this next one, which was built again in 1970 and used until 1981. Also known as Jim Clark's corner. This is a Scot driver that unfortunately lost his life. Prior to it being called Jim Scott's corner, it was Ayrton Senna's corner. Also, just off to the left here, this strip is a drag strip used for top fuelers running in a backwards direction. And this corner is the entrance to the autodrome, or the unofficial autodrome, as it is used today. This is a south section of the track called South Corner. And that one indeed was called Zach's Corner, sponsored by the company Zach, which is a clutch manufacturer. So I'll be quiet now and I'll take us on a lap. And that completes a fairly average lap of the Hockenheim Classic ring. Hopefully we'll be a bit quicker to that during the race on hot tyres. Thanks very much. See you soon.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed the old cracking lap from John Dog. That was a very good effort from him to be able to give that to me, to put on the live stream for you guys. And a very good history lesson as well. And yeah, thanks for the effort there, mate. I'd love to see a lot more of that stuff to come in this series. Just something to point out, being a very fast flowing track and a track predominantly right corners, it's very hard to get that non-loaded tyre up to temperature. And you can see John Dog struggle through his hot lap there with a cold inside right tyre. So the guys really got to work these tyres on the outlap. So 1:52.9 there from Waffles is the current pace setter. He's followed closely by Short Fuse here. He's half a second down. That's Blue XR8 getting himself on the board with a 1:56.3 there. So these guys are going with relatively low fill numbers here for this 15-minute session. 6 litres for Blue XR8 on board his machine there. So we'll stay on board with him for the time being as he's in the mid-sector. No, not yet. So he's coming into the first chicane now. He's going to break it. No, he didn't get it to a stop fast enough. Went way too deep on the brakes and he had to shortcut the chicane there. So lap binned there for Blue XR8, unfortunately. And as a result, he's a bit over half a second down. We'll go on board with someone awesome now. He's closely behind Blue XR8, about a sector down from him. So he's running his traditional yellow colours there, and he gets that chicane right. No, he doesn't. There's a lot of extra oversteer on exit there at turn 5. And he's completely binned that as well. So I reckon the first chicane is going to catch out a lot of drivers tonight. So 1:56.1 from John Dog. He was the driver that gave us a hot lap on board his machine prior. So we'll have a suss of what he's up to, as he's about to go into the same section of the track the guys before him had stuffed up. So Unfortunately enough, he's come out of that chicane relatively unscathed. Now this is going to be for a first sector split. 7 tenths up. So he's looking to improve on his time, but he's got to gain at least 2.5 more seconds if he's to put himself up in the second place. So that's a very fast chicane there. If you time it right, you've got to turn in the car at the right times. You've got to really hit those markers there. It's a trail braking chicane, that second one. As we go onto the back straight now, heading into the third chicane. This one's a relatively slow chicane as well. You can hear the revs roar as he tries to get it to a full stop there, pretty much, John Dog. So we're going to get a sector split up for him soon. So he's 1.3 seconds up on his quickest. Provisionally, it's not going to improve on the grid. Or actually, we'll move him up in the P3 because he's been relegated in the time we've actually spectated him. So Cheese Noodles goes up in the P3 of a 1:55.4. We have a couple other guys setting their respective lap times as well. But they're all off the pace currently, and they look to have been outlaps from those guys. So we'll get on board with them relatively soon. As John Dog comes across the line, he goes in the P3 of a 1:55.1. So he's still got 2.3 seconds if he's to challenge for pole position. Currently, that's occupied by Waffles, and he's parked it up in pit lane. This is short fuse. He's still on a hot lap here. We'll stay on board for the rest of this lap because he's in sector 3. We'll wait and see if he can actually improve on that 1:53.5. So through the last 2 corners now we go. They're very fast right-hander corners. Mid-corner speed around the 120 kilometre mark. So relatively high. Cross the line now. So obviously an out that there. So that's Blue X-Rate and P5. This is Wimpinator. He was the champion of the last series. He had a whooping 10 race victories in a 19-round season. So he looks to be one of those guys that are really going to be challenging for the title here tonight as well. So currently he's 10 seconds up on his quickest lap in a 2:05.3. So currently that will put him P3, but he's been to exit oversteer in the stadium section, and he's had to park it to the side of the road there as he lets a few of the guys pass. So we'll go on board with Dimple. He's in the mid-sector. He's at the long, fast hairpin in the mid-sector there. He's got company behind him as well. So I'm not sure what's going on here. We've got a couple of weaving. No, he's the guy behind here. So he looks to be on an outlap as he tries to warm up those tyres. Trying to put a lot of work into them. So this is someone awesome. Currently P10. He has not set a lap time yet. So we'll stay on board with him and we'll actually get cockpit view up as he heads into the first chicane. Does he get oversteer this time? He does, but he holds on to it. So he's recognised his deficiencies in the first sector and he's held on to it that time around. So we're not going to get a sector split there because he hasn't recorded a lap time for us to get a reference on. So we go into the fast second chicane now. If you can time it exactly right there. And he's done just that. Mid-corner speed was kept up reasonably high. So we've got a good launch onto the back straight now. We've got 5 minutes left in this qualifying session as he heads into the final chicane now. Correction, the second last chicane. He had to take a lot of inside curve to get that car to a stop. He hindered a bit of his mid-corner speed in doing so. So I reckon this will challenge for at least a top 5 spot. Provisionally, we'll wait and see if I'm wrong on that, but I'm highly positive this will be a top 5 lap time here. As we go on to the last section of the track now. Trying to keep it relatively fast as we go through on the outside there. Taking a lot of exit curb. Almost off the track pretty much. So be lucky not to have invalidated his lap time. And I think he has. Someone awesome has spammed the race feed there. And yet, no doubt, that is lap time invalidated. And I think the next lap time will be invalidated as well, unfortunately for him. So he's going to have to get a quick turnaround if he's to make it in under 4 minutes here for another time around. So this is Aussie Chopper, currently P11. He hasn't set a lap time yet. And he's done the same thing as someone awesome on that previous lap. So his lap time, is it invalidated? No, it's not. So we'll stay on board as he's about to cross the control line. Heading onto the main straight now. It's very crucial to keep that mid-corner speed up in the last 2 corners. So no lap time recorded, unfortunately. So lap time invalidated for him. So currently, Wimpinator, he's put himself up in the P2 and he's less than 4/10 of a second in the lead of this session now. So he's going to challenge for pole position. So currently he's on a hot lap. Waffles is out on track as well. Now we've got Short Fuse in P3. He hasn't improved on that lap time that he recorded earlier on in the session. A 1:53.5 is his quickest. And he's having to negotiate traffic here. As he crosses the control line now, he goes faster, but not fast enough to move up in the P2. So he's going to have to improve at least a 1/10 of a second to get himself up in the P2. We'll actually go back on board with Wimpinator. He's in the mid-sector now. Around the carousel section. Heading onto the back straight. So this is a long back straight. It'll feel like forever in the cockpit there for Wimpinator as he enters the third chicane. He's quite unlucky not to be in the draft of a car in front, so he'll be really hindered in top-end speed-wise. It might be a strategic play there as he tries to keep some of his aero heading into those very slow chicanes. We've got a car off in the background there. So unfortunately, Wimpinator is not actually on a hot lap, so we'll go on board with Short Fuse. He improved on his quickest last time around. Can he do it this time around? Can he move up into a P2 or P1? We'll wait and see. We're about to get a sector split from him as he's exited the first chicane here. So down the front straight we go. Across the first sector now. He's down, so an outlet from him. He's actually parked it up and come straight back out on track. So Waffles and Bits, he's up, what, half a second on his quickest time here. So provisionally looking to get a 1:52.2. And that will pretty much blitz the field by 1 second if he can pull it off. He's in the last few corners now, and it's looking very highly likely that he's going to improve. The car looks reasonably settled and gripped up to the track as we enter the main straight now. So across the control line for Waffles. What's it going to be for him? It's going to be a 1:52.2. He improves. So he's got 8.5 temps over Wimpinator in P2. And Short Fuse also 8.5 temps down as well. So those guys got a lot of catching up to do if they're to chip in on that provisional pole time set by Waffles in the closing minute of this qualifying session. Next up, we've got a 25 lap race with a mandatory pit stop. And there is a safety car feature if we have 2 or more cars involved in an accident at some point. So hopefully we don't have that happen. But I'll notify you when that sort of scenario pops up. So we got green flag there. I've just added that feature. And then we got the yellow flag to signal the safety car. So I'll bring them up when relevant too. So unfortunately for Short Fuse, that was an out lap for him. But he's on a hot lap now. So we still haven't seen a lap recorded by Dimple nor someone awesome. He's not going to be able to record a lap time. And he's going to start last. He's going to start P11 for this race, so he's got a lot of catching up to do. Waffles, he's decided to park it, and he's going to be watching the guys in P2 and P3 with a very close eye as Wimpinator enters the last corner now. Is this going to be enough to get provisional pole? It is! By less than 2/100ths of a second, Waffles has been pipped in the closing stages of quali. Now what does Short Fuse have in response to that? He's in the mid-sector around the carousel section. He's headed onto the back straight now. We do not have an indication of the split time here, but I'll assume he's on for his quickest lap time this time around. He's got a car up ahead and he should be in the draft. Should be able to get a couple more kilometres faster than his usual top-end speed without that. So we're about to get a sector split on the end of the second sector here on the back straight. So the narrowest of margins, Wimpinator has pipped Waffles by less than 2/100ths of a second. We didn't get a sector split there from Short Fuse, so I'm not sure this is going to be a relevant lap or not. We still got a couple more drivers out on track. I think Aussie's the car ahead, maybe. No. So he's in the first sector. I think he's on a cool-down lap. But we'll go back on board with Short Fuse. I think that's Dimple or Sparky God up ahead. And Short Fuse, he's invalidated his lap time and he's not going to improve on his position there. So he's going to start P3. So there is your grid for the upcoming feature race here at Hockenheim Classic GP. So it's going to be Wimpinator taking pole position by the narrowest of margins. Got it in the later stages of qualifying. And that means Waffles will be very disappointed. He wasn't able to go fast enough to get pole position. He will see himself in P2. Short Fuse. Unfortunately, last corner, he invalidated his lap times via exceeding track limits. So he'd really be kicking himself. He could have improved, but he pushed it a bit too hard. Then we got John Dog joining Short Fuse on the second row on P4. Then we got Cheese Noodles and Voodoo on the third row. Blue X-Ray and Chopper sharing row 4. Dimple and Sparky Gold sharing row 5. And Someone Awesome not recording a lap time in the qualifying session. We'll see himself start from last on the grid. He's got a lot of work to do if he's to make up positions in the 25 lap race. So we're about to go green light racing here for Bush League Racing's LMP2 Classic Track Series here. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be a ripper with the times extremely close at the top there. And I'm very sure Short Fuse would have challenged for pole position with that lap time. So here we go. Standing start. Staggered start as well. So there's no side-by-side carnage going on heading into turn 1. If you get a better start on the outside, we could see Waffles challenge for the first spot heading into turn 1 if he can maximise his start off the line here. So we'll get every bit of information up on screen now. Welcome back, Amazing. Great to have you on board. Hope you're enjoying this so far. Qualifying was decided by the narrowest of margins. But as for Waffles, I reckon he'll be driving with a bit of rage now. Because he was pipped by barely nothing on a track that's very long. It's a very fast-flowing track. And to be pipped by pretty much less than 2/100ths, it's nothing in it. So those two are going to be fighting to the very end, no doubt, throughout this 25 lap race. So I actually get the green flag up on screen and see if it actually works. So it is working. So the guys are just loading in their race car setups as well as their pit strategies as well. And I'm pretty positive the guys can just come to a stop in their pit boom and that's pretty much done and dusted. But I don't think they're filled to the end, so they are going to have to come in for fill. I think it's going to be at least 30 litres or something along those lines. So here we go. We're about to go green here for Bush League Racing's LMP2 Series Round 2, hosted at Hockenheim Classic GP. And we go green, and that's an awful start from Wimpinator off pole position. He's already been pipped by Waffles and Short Fuse. So those guys up a position heading into turn 1. And they're bumper to bumper now as we go down the main straight here. So Wimpinator got very bogged off the line. John Dog holds on to P4. Blue X-Ray holds on to P5 as well as Voodoo in P6. We've got Cheese Noodles in P7. And that was a wonderful start from Someone Awesome. He's moved from P11 all the way up in the P8. Short Fuse trying to make a move on the inside but not able to get him under brakes. So he's going to have to set it right in behind. He's trying to get an overlap out of the first chicane. Massive defensive manoeuvres from Waffles as we head into the second chicane section. Heading into the mid-sector now. See a very defensive line taken from Waffles on this opening lap. He is really under siege from Short Fuse. Wimpinator has really lost it from the line. So he's got a lot of work to do if he's to catch up to the top two. He's going to be able to stay in the slipstream as well if he's to be competitive towards the end stage of this race. And by the looks of it, we have a safety car. So yellow flag, it's out and about. So the guys will go to at least 100 kilometers an hour to set their limit, to let the rest of the guys catch up. So you can see the guys weaving there to keep the tyre temps up to optimal temperature. As we know, at a fast flowing track like this, you really got to work those tyres. You've got to give it as much lateral roll as possible to really work in the tyres. So in times like these, they really got to keep weaving. So as well as keeping the optimal brake temps is crucial, because you come from your top end speed, almost 300 kilometers an hour, coming to about 110 kilometers an hour within 2 seconds. So they must keep those brake temps up if they're to maintain their braking markers. So you can see Wimpinator, he's moved up in the P2 because Waffles has drifted off in the pit lane. And by the looks of it, this is a strategy play here from him. So he's going to be fuel saving to the end. So we'll stay on board here. We also got Cheese Noodles in pit lane now. Or does he have a drive-through? No, he has a drive-through. So that good start from him obviously was a jump start, unfortunately for him. So he's had to serve it under safety car. I'm not sure there's a rule stating you can't serve it under safety car in Bush League racing. So for now, it's Short Fuse who is leading the pack. He's got the lead over Wimpinator at the pole position sitter before lap 1. He's sitting in P2. John Dog up in the P3. We've got someone awesome from P11 on the grid all the way up in the P4 on lap 2. He is really in the mix to get a podium finish so far. It's a very good effort from him so far. And we got Dimple in P5, so very good effort from him to move up a few as well. Sparky God, one of those guys moving up the grid as well. Aussie Chopper maintaining position. We've got Waffles, he's moved all the way back to P8 after serving that drive-through penalty. Cheese Noodles in P9. Blue XR8 coming in the pit lane with a lot of damage by the looks of it. He's lost his bonnet. Now you can see him getting repairs now, and Voodoo also following into pit lane. He doesn't have a rear wing, nor does he have a bonnet. So these two have made contact on lap 1. And they're really going to be pushing it if they're to stay on the lead lap here. So very unfortunate scenes for those two, as Blue X-Ray is still parked up in his pit boom there, getting repairs on his machine. So those guys have got a lot of waiting to do. So back to the front of this pack. Everyone's weaving to keep the tyre temps up to optimal temperature. It's going to be a very difficult task when you're travelling at lower speeds as well. So there'll be a lot of fuel saving during this process as well. The guys will obviously be in higher gears than usual. Short Fuse in second. So we'll go through the list to see who's actually in the fuel saving gears. So Waffles is actually fuel saving, as you can see on screen there. He's in 4th gear going 70 kilometers an hour. So he's trying to save a little bit of juice, so he has a quicker pit stop, basically. So strategy going on all around the field as these two guys, Blue XR8 and Voodoo, are still in for repairs. So whatever's happened, it's obviously really hindered their reliability with their cars. And you can see Blue XR8 exiting pit lane now. Voodoo still standing in his pit boom. So we'll wait and see if he's got a lot longer to go or he'll be out relatively soon. We'll wait and see, as the guys are in the 3rd sector now. So he's got a lot of work to do if he's to go a lap down. So Short Fuse, he's in the last couple of corners now. So I think Voodoo, is he coming out of pit lane now? No, he's still stuck in his pit boom. So he is going to go a lap down unless the guys give him permission to drive past and catch up to the back of the pack. I'm pretty sure that will be the scenario. because that invites a lot of close racing when we have pretty much everyone on the lead lap, and obviously that's what we want to see. We want battles going throughout the whole entire field. So you can see Blue X-Ray, he's really charging away there. So Waffles in 6th gear, he's severely field saving now, but he's got a greater number than Aussie Chopper. He's only got 40 litres in his fuel tank, so a completely different strategy play there from him as he tries to take a lot of fuel load in his first stint. We'll take a look at everyone else's fuel load. So Sparky God, he's got 70 litres on board. 70 litres on board for Dimple. Same goes with Someone Awesome and John Dog. Wimpinator with the same, as well as Short Fuse. And we'll go back beyond Waffles. So Cheese Noodles with 69 litres on board. 71 litres on board for Blue XR8, but he's still got to catch up to the back of the pack here. So he's going to be using a bit of that fuel. And we got Voodoo with 70 litres. So you can see the fuel differences start to change the outcome of this race, I reckon. So as for Short Fuse, he's almost got a litre less of fuel than Wimpinator behind him. So it's probably best to be the guy behind the lead guy, because you can stick it right in the rear bumper and barely use any fuel at all. So this might be a blessing in disguise for Wimpinator as he tries to save himself a bit of time in pit lane once he has to make that stop. John Dog, he's on the same fuel numbers as Wimpinator, so those guys are going to be in pit lane for the same amount of time. Someone Awesome, he's going to have a longer standing stop as well. 1 litre less than the guys in front. But I'm very curious about this strategy play here from Aussie Chopper. So he's only got 40 litres on board, so a lot of fuel load. And being in the mid-pack of the grid as well, he's looking to get a lot of gain throughout the slipstreaming process. He's trying to keep his car as light as possible so he can just blaze down the back straights here without having to make the move under brakes. So I reckon that's why he's went the low fuel load there. But that means we'll see him in pit lane for a lot longer as well. So we're just waiting on Voodoo to catch up to the back of the pack, and then we should go back to green flag racing here at Hockenheim. So the longer we have safety cars, the less fuel that the guys have to come into the pits for. So as for Short Fuse, he's down on the fuel numbers here. He must save a little bit of fuel. Might have to go back into a different engine setting to save a little bit of fuel on the next few laps or so, as it looks like we're about to go green here. So it'll be Short Fuse leading the grid here off lap 3. So I think it would continue cross the control line now as we enter into the last few corners at Hockenheim Classic GP. You see Wimpinator trying to stay right behind the rear bumper of Short Fuse there. So we're about to go green here. He's going to try get a little bit of a gain once he's up the speed here, Short Fuse. So holding 60 kilometres an hour, that's our pit limiter. So here we go green once again, and we're on lap 4 of lap 25. And that was a very good jump from Short Fuse. He's got a decent gap between himself and Wimpinator heading into turn 1. John Dog is right on the rear bumper of Wimpinator, but he's currently under pressure by Southern Awesome. Southern Awesome started last on the grid, and he's up in the P4. He's trying to challenge for a podium position in the early stages. He's trying to take a look down the inside, heading into the first chicane. He's getting a bit of a side draft as well, and he's going to make the move before the braking zone. So by the looks of it, John Dog's just backed out the throttle a little bit as he gets a little bit of rear contact from Dimple behind. That almost ended very badly for those two guys. So Someone Awesome, he's up in the P3 after making that move. So Short Fuse, he's got a decent gap between himself and Wimpinator, starting to extend now. So that lead at the front of the grid here is going over 1 second now. So he's really on the power in the early stages. Obviously, no fuel saving whatsoever. So we'll go back to the midfield where John Dog is trying to get back into his groove after getting overtaken by Someone Awesome heading into the first chicane. He's got a decent gap from the next guy behind him in Dimple. Those guys made contact at that first chicane on this lap. So very fortunate to see those guys still on track, as I thought it was going to end very badly there. So we'll actually stay on board with Dimple. He's currently under pressure by Sparky God. He's trying to take a look down the inside as we enter the next right-hander, head into the last sector now. A very huge lock up there from Sparky God behind. But Dimple, he's really went too deep on the brake, and he's going to have to give position to pretty much everyone now. He's lost 5 positions after going very deep on the brakes. There's a huge stuff up from him there. So Sparky God is up in the P5 now. Currently Waffles is on his rear bumper. He's trying to make himself up back into the podium spots as well. And that's Sparky God trying to go defensive, heading into turn 1. No, he lets out the throttle to let Waffles pass up in the P5. So Sparky God, he's just letting the guys do their own thing here as he tries to get in his own groove in this early stage here at Hockenheim. So it's a 2-second lead in favour of Short Fuse at the top. Wimpinator currently losing out to Short Fuse there. And Sparky God's completely binned it at the first chicane. He's in the tyre barrier there. No doubt he's going to have to come in the pit lane to repair that damage that he's sustained there. He's lost his bonnet and he's going to be relegated to the back of the grid now. Just misjudged his braking marker, and as a result, he's completely binned it. He's also lost his front left tyre as well. And I think he's blown his engine. No, that's smoke coming from the tyres. So his race is done and dusted. It's going to take him a long time to get from where he is now to the end of pit lane. So currently on board with Short Fuse, the race leader on lap 5. He's got a healthy 2.5 second lead over Wimpinator, the reigning champion at Bush League Racing. Someone Awesome up in the P3, but he's lost a lot of ground to the two guys ahead of him in Short Fuse and Wimpinator. And he's got a decent gap between himself and John Dog. That gap between those two is 2 seconds. Waffles in P5. Cheese Noodles is further back by 3 seconds as well. He's got no pressure behind at this stage, as Blue XR8 is still a second down from him. Blue XR8 behind him is Dimple, and he's starting to really close in as well. Aussie Chopper, he's lost a lot of ground on the last lap, so he's 8 seconds behind the next driver ahead of him in Dimple. Voodoo has had very unfortunate circumstances for himself as well, as he goes very deep under brake into the hairpin there. So back to the lead, where Short Fuse is actually losing out his lead now. So that lead is being diminished to 2.2 seconds. So I reckon Short Fuse has identified that he's got to save a little bit of fuel here in the early stage, because no doubt Wimpinator has a huge fuel advantage at this stage. We've got a car off there. That's the car of Sparky God. He's still limping that car back to pit lane on 3 tyres. He's really struggling there. And I reckon we might see his engine blow relatively soon. That's if he's not revving the shit out of it. I mean, that's if he is revving the shit out of it, but by the looks of it, he's not doing that. So these two just blazing ahead. Someone awesome only just in the picture now. Heading into the third chicane there. So short fuse, he's lost a little bit of ground in the mid-sector. The lead is only 1.8 seconds now, and he had a massive lock-up heading into the hairpin. So he's really struggling on the tyres earlier on. But he's keeping a cool head. He's keeping the car on track, and that's what's required to win races. Half a second down on his quickest last lap. So he's lost a little bit of pace earlier on. So he'll be looking to come in the pit lane soon to get back into the groove that he was in the opening few laps. Wimpinator, he's lost a little bit of ground after turn one. Someone awesome. He's about to be under pressure by Waffles, who's made himself up in the P4 there. So John Dog has lost out, by the looks of it, on the last corner of last lap. So Cheese Noodles, he's currently in a battle with Blue X-Ray. This is the battle for P6. We'll actually go on board with Blue X-Ray on cockpit view. As you can see, Cheese Noodles in picture now as we enter the first chicane complex here at Hockenheim. He's made a lot of ground on the brakes. He's up on his fastest lap time as well, so that's very good to see. So the second of the chicanes here as he tries to make a move, and he's hit the inside wall, and he's all the way on the outside of the carousel. He would have got damage from that, but not as much as Sparky God by losing a tyre. You can see the steering arm's actually damaged because you can see him leaning the steering wheel over to the left-hand side as he goes down the straights. So he's completely screwed it up in the second chicane, Blue XR8. So he's just going to have to persist with the issue that he has got on board his machine. That was a very desperate move by the looks of it. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off, but if it did, that would have been an awesome overtake. So currently on board with John Dog, sitting P5 on track. So he's 16.8 seconds down from the lead, and someone awesome's made a huge mistake heading into the last corner. He's spun the rear tyres and he's put himself onto the inside of the track. He's going to have to be cautious with his rejoin here. By the looks of it, he's heading in the pit lane. So he's going to have to come in for a fill stop as well. So he's going to fill it all the way up to 75 litres, I think is the capacity of the LMP2 cars. And that lead of short fuse has been extended to 3.1 seconds now on lap 8. So there's no fuel saving whatsoever from him. It's all out attack towards the end of this race. As we're on lap 8 of lap 25, we'll soon see him in pit lane. So he's got 50 litres on board. So just keeping that leg stagnant there between 3.1 and 3.2 seconds. And in the background you can see Waffle at the third chicane now. So someone awesome. He's exited pit lane and now he's P10 on track. He's only just in the first sector now as Sparky God has finally made it to pit lane after running his car on 3 tyres for 1 lap. And that's going to be a long stand there in his pit boom for him. So we'll actually go on board with Cheese Noodles here. It's currently getting chased down by Dimple in P6. So this is the battle for P5. Someone awesome came off in the pit lane and these guys are all up a position from John Dog all the way down to P9 in Voodoo. So those guys all making up a position there. So you can see Dimple and Blue XO8 in the background there. I think it is as well. He's trying to limp his wounded car around the track as well with the damaged steering arm that he sustained, hitting the inside wall in the second chicane. He carried way too much mid-corner speed and he wasn't able to pull that manoeuvre off on Cheese Noodles, I think it was. So back to P1, that lead of Short Fuse has been diminished to 2.5 seconds. So he's lost a little bit of ground on the last lap. You see his fuel load starting to lighten up as well. We'll go back on board with Wimpinator. He's got 1.1 litres more than Short Fuse. So there's going to be less of a standing time in pit lane for him. A lot of curb usage from Short Fuse through the second chicane there. So he's really on the attack still. He's not slowing down, no matter how fuel compromised he is at this stage. So Waffles, he's 13.6 seconds away from the lead of this one. He's got a decent gap behind him as well between himself and John Dog. That's Dimple and P5. He's 6 seconds away from John Dog. And 5 seconds down the track is Cheese Noodles in P6. And we got Blue XO8 in P7. Aussie Chopper in P8. Voodoo in P9. We've got Someone Awesome in P10. After that early mistake heading in the pit lane there. Then we've got Sparky God. He's finally back out on track. But he's only on lap 6 of lap 10. So he's 4 laps down, unfortunately. So he's just going to have to rotate the laps around the track to get as much points on offer for him tonight. You can see the visual damage there. I'm not sure if he's repaired his whole car there or if he's just repaired it enough so he can actually drive it. Might actually go on board cockpit view to see if he's actually got to have the steering wheel held down at some point down the straight. By the looks of it, it looks quite fine. But once everyone's starting to make their pit stops, I reckon he'll come at least one more lap ahead. So it doesn't look like he's carrying a wounded car there. Looks to be quite happy with the stability now. So the lead, Short Fuse, it's been cut down to 1.9 seconds as we enter lap 11. So Wimpinator is really on the charge now. In the last lap time comparisons, it was in favour of Wimpinator by 0.2 of a second. So he's really on a charge now before we head into the first round of pit stops here. So 1.1 seconds it's been cut down to now. Now, I might actually check the fill numbers to see if he's actually saved a little bit of fill, and he has. So 0.9 litres is the difference in fill numbers now. So Shortview is really under pressure now as we enter lap 12. He's in fill save mode. As you can see, he's lost a lot of time on the last lap. 1.3 seconds to be more precise, he's lost in comparison to Wimpinator. He's really using that fill under brakes as he goes very deep, having to use the engine to the maximum performance under brakes. He's trying to keep that lead. And he's only 2 tenths down on his fastest lap time here, so he's starting to bring the pace back up to scratch now. So Waffles, he looks to be in a good scenario as well. 40.3 litres on board as we enter the halfway stage. And as for fuel saving, I reckon... So Short Fuse, he's actually made a mistake. Wimpinator's up into the lead of this one. Now he's having to negotiate with lap traffic here. Just trying to find who that is. So Short Fuse, he's got a 3-second gap between himself and Waffles. So Waffles is the car battling with Southern Awesome back there. And I think Southern Awesome is a lap down now as he loses the rear end. Does he hold on to it? He's held on to it, so he's put it back out on track now. It's very good car control from him to maintain control of the car. So 9-second lead in favour of Wimpinator, the reigning champion at Bush League Racing. So he's really showing the reason why he was last season champion. He had a whooping 10 race wins out of 19. He's looking to continue those winning ways here in round 2 of the LMP2 series here at Bush League Racing. He's got lap traffic up ahead of him as well, so he's going to have to negotiate there over the radio. So we're currently at the halfway stage. He's got 35.6 litres on board his machine. Is that enough to last to the end though? He's definitely fuel compromised at this stage. He's going to have to put it into a lean setting very soon. So I reckon if he can start saving it now, he can take a risk, go in the pit lane and just have a standing stop in his pit boom. So you can see Sparky God getting out of the way of Wimpinator there. So very good awareness and sportsmanship from him to let that move happen with ease. We go down the list. Short Fuse, after a mistake, is all the way back in the P2 now. And currently, Waffles is knocking on his door. So this battle for P2 is really starting to heat up in the mid-stage here at Hockenheim. He's really out of phase right there. He's half a second down on his quickest race lap. So he's really feeling the pressure on the older set of tyres. As you see him lock up an inside wheel there at the hairpin. So all Wimpinator has to do is bring the car home. He's going to come home as the round 2 winner here for Bush League Racing's LMP2 series. So Short Fuse going out wide at turn 1. He kissed a little bit of the grass on corner exit. back on board with the commentary. I'll actually set you up with a lap on board with Wimpinator once she crosses the control line. And that'll obviously be on board cockpit view as I go and get a quick drink. He's looking very confident in the later stage of this race. He's on lap 14 of 25, still yet to make a mandatory pit stop. So we'll see him in the next 10 laps or so. So here we go, enjoy a lap on board with Wimpinator here. So that was a lap on board Wimpinator's machine, and he almost replicated his fastest lap of the race as well. So very good lap from him, a 1:53.9 last time around. And he's extended that lead between himself and Short Fuse. That's been extended out to 10.8 seconds. You can see Waffles in the background there, a further 2 seconds behind Short Fuse here. Pardon me. You got John Dog in the background, is it? No, he's currently sitting P4. I'm not sure if he's coming for a pit stop yet, but he's 41 seconds down from the lead of this race, which may indicate that he has. It's a very short pit transit, so you wouldn't be taking too long transiting pit lane there. He's got 26 litres on board his machine, so it looks like he is definitely fuel compromised. 24.7 for Wimpinator. We got 23.7 for Short Fuse. 26.1 for Waffles and Bits. So if anyone's to make it to the end, Waffles and Bits is the most likely to do so. So we got a car off, a lap car off in the background there. Not sure who that was. I think that was the car of Voodoo. Yep, definitely is. So he's lost out big time there. He's 14.1 seconds off his quickest lap. And he's really struggling to maintain grip to the track. He's trying to limp it around as he tries to cool down his tyres. He's trying to keep it off the curves, which definitely indicates that he's trying to cool down those tyres as he goes out wide on entry into the last corner. So lap 17 of 25 for Wimpinator. So Voodoo is a lap down. Wimpinator, he's really blazing away in P1. And then Short Fuse in P2. He's trying to hold off a charging Waffles. He started P2 and he'll be wanting to maintain that spot towards the end of the race. So currently he's lost one position from the starting grid. Wimpinator, he got on pole position, had an awful start, and he's put himself back into that spot for the mid-stage. So he'd be really licking his lips in the lead of this race for sure, with a decent lead in hand as well. So from now in between the end of the race, Wimpinator could probably let it off the throttle a little bit to save a little bit more fuel than he needs to, so there's less of a standing stop in pit lane. So they're definitely going to have to come in for fuel, no doubt, as the leaders start to tick down quite fast there. He's currently on his quickest lap of the race now, 2/100ths up on his quickest. He's using every bit of track. No evidence of lockups in through corner entry there. So he's really set up this car good for his driving style. Just trying to nurse the throttle coming out of the last corner. Is this going to be an improvement on his quickest? It is by half a tenth. So he's got 19.4 litres on board. Short Fuse has got 18.7. He's gone out wide there. Last lap, 1.8 seconds slower than his quickest. He's really losing a lot of ground in comparison to Wimpinator at the front. As you see, Waffles start to catch up to the rear bumper now. So you can really hear the engines crumble there. They're under a lot of pressure as we head into these chicanes, going from their top end speed to a low mid corner speed of 110 kilometers an hour. So Short Fuse has actually extended that gap between himself and Waffles through the mid sector. We'll be looking to hold on now. It looks like we have foggy conditions in the last weather slot in this race. Looks to be light fog there. You can still see a decent amount of the track in front of you. So still got huge visibility as Short Fuse has his lights on. So the drivers did not anticipate the last weather slot because it was a random weather slot, so it could have rained, and obviously it hasn't. It's become foggy conditions here at Hockenheim. So that gap between Short Fuse and Waffles is 1.6 seconds. So this is the battle that we got to keep a close eye on. We actually haven't seen any of the lead runners come into the pits yet for their mandatory pit stops. So they're trying to get a gauge on how much fuel they actually have to put on board their machines, I reckon. So we'll wait and see how long they can last. As for now, they've got 6 laps to go. And I don't think 14.4 litres is going to cut it from now to the end of the race. Unless they fuel save, or if they fuel saved enough. Wimpinator's actually probably the most likely to make it home with what he's got. It is really touch and go. Waffles is in a better scenario there. 16.2 litres on board. Now I'm really depleted on visibility now. It's heavy fog now. I can't see a thing here. So we're going to have to go on board cockpit view because I can't see any of the cars on trackside view. So we're on board with Waffles. He's currently trying to hold off Short Fuse, who's actually made a mistake. So Waffles has moved up in the P2. I'm not sure what happened to Short Fuse as we got John Dog and Cheese Noodles in pit lane for their mandatory pit stops. Gone out wide as Waffles. He's missed his brake marker by a lot due to the foggy conditions. And that will be the reason why Short Fuse actually made a mistake. And these two battling it out. I do apologise for having to keep it in cockpit view as Short Fuse drifts off in the pit lane now. So he's really low on fuel. We'll wait and see how much fuel he actually puts on board. And actually, I might actually hop on board with John Dog because he was one of the drivers that went into the pit. So he's got 24.6 litres. So he's going to be filled up to the end. Currently, he's still on the lead lap, sitting P5. So he's looking quite fine to get a very good result here in round 2 of the LMP2 series here at Bush League Racing. So you see John Dog really breaking it early. So these guys going a lot slower than they are required to because they're very hindered in terms of visibility. And that's why we see ourselves in cockpit view right now on board with John Dog. So Short Fuse has come out into P3. And he's 55 seconds down from the lead of the race. And we see Someone Awesome and Voodoo drift off in the pit lane. So they obviously weren't filled to the end. We might actually go on board with Wimpinator. He's got 9.3 litres left, so he's trying to save as much fuel as possible. So he has a shorter pit stop once he starts to head in for that. The guys do have lower engine modes available to them as well. So you got the rich mode, you got the normal mode, as Wimpinator's made a huge mistake. He pinched the rear brakes a little bit too much. Now he's 2.5 seconds down on his quickest lap. Now I reckon Short Fuse, he might be in the picture here. He's trying to keep as much mid-corner speed through the second chicane there, Wimpinator. So he's going to have to at least top up 10 litres to get to the end from where it is now. 21 laps they have recorded. Currently on lap 21 of 25. So he's still got 4.5 laps to go here at Hockenheim Classic GP. This is the historic version of the track that we are hosting tonight here at Bush League Racing's LMP2 series. It's a very unique car and track combo, no doubt. And a very unique situation that we see ourselves in. Foggy conditions hasn't really been utilised in the world of competitive online racing here on project cars. So we see Wimpinator drift off in the pit lane now, and that must mean Waffles is going to be in soon as well. Then we got Dimple in pit lane as well. He's been relegated back to P5 because John Dog has moved himself up into P4. So Waffles opts to stay out. And he should be able to get past Wimpinator here, but he's still got to come in the pit lane. That was Wimpinator's engine as he exits his pit boom. We might actually get Chase View up to give us a bigger picture here as we head into the first chicane. So I can't even see the braking markers, and he's just hit the braking marker perfect there, Waffles. With the car off there. Who is that? That's not Sparky God. That's Voodoo. So he's lost the front left tyre as well. So he's, by the looks of it, he's done the same thing as Sparky God. And now he looks to be in the wars as he loses position after position on lap 19 of 25. He's going to have to limp at the pit lane, and I don't think he's going to finish as high as he would like to. You can see the sparks as the front splitter starts to drag on the left-hand side of the car. So Waffles, he's really about to run out of fuel here. He is in reserve now. So 5 litres left. He must pit in the next lap or so. He's got a 9-second lead over Wimpinator, who is the provisional leader of this race. And then you got Short Fuse in P3. He's also made his pit stop. And he's 36 seconds adrift from the lead of this one. So drifting off into pit lane now. Oh, almost missed the braking marker there as he had to sustain a huge lockup coming into pit entry there. And that's a lap car going by, as well as Wimpinator just then. So where is Waffles going to come out in comparison to Short Fuse? Wait and see. So Short Fuse, he's in the last few corners now. But Waffles is currently exiting pit lane, so he should be able to maintain P2 in the closing 3 laps of this one. So he's got out with relative ease there. He's got no pressure whatsoever to the very end. So it looks like he's going to come home in P2, assuming he keeps the car on the grey stuff. A huge lock-up in the rear there. Waffles barely got it to a stop, and that's the tyre of Voodoo's car there off to the right-hand side in the first chicane. So that's where he's done it. Deep on the brakes there. It's a very fast-flowing second chicane here at Hockenheim. Got a bit of lap traffic there from Voodoo, still limping back to pit lane there. And he's still lucky that he's still in P9 as well. He's still in front of Aussie and Sparky God, who had the same situation occur with him earlier on. Oh, who was that? That was Cheese Noodles, so he's also lost the tyre as well. Instead, he's done it on the right-hand side. So he's made a huge mistake here in the non-visible conditions. So drivers going off everywhere as Voodoo's finally made it back to pit lane. He's sustained a lot of damage from that contact in the tyre bundle at the first chicane. And I reckon, who else was it? Cheese Noodles has done the same at the first chicane as well. And he's only on the second last corner on the inside of the track, trying to let lap traffic pass there. And he looks to be bogged down a little bit. So he's only just going to limp it back to pit lane, but it's Wimpinator with the lead of this one by 13.5 seconds. He's really confident in these non-visible conditions here. No driver could have predicted the weather conditions that present itself now because it was the random slot. So there was no opportunity to practice for this scenario. But to be very good in these conditions, you don't want to use brake markers, you want to use muscle memory. I reckon that's what Wimpinator is doing. even though he's 1.7 seconds down from his quickest. He's about to enter the last lap of this 25-lap race here, and he's going to come home with a comfortable victory. 12.5 seconds is the lead of this one over Waffles. And we've got Short Fuse in P3 there, 26 seconds adrift from Wimpinator in P1. So these conditions still horrendous. So we got Dimple, we got Cheese Noodles off in the pit lane now. So Dimple's currently exiting pit lane. I reckon that was his mandatory pit stop, as Cheese Noodles comes in for his repairs. Not sure why there's a wet tyre compound out there. We've got another car coming in the pit lane in Aussie. He's a lot of laps down here. He's 5 laps down. He's missed his pit box there. He's missed it completely. For his pit box was the pit box of Cheese Noodles there. So Wimpinator is currently in the mid-sector now with a 14-second lead on the last lap. And he's going to go to the end of the line with barely anything in the tank. Waffles is just going to have to settle for P2, and Short Fuse having to settle for P3. Good effort by John Dog to hold P4 there. So here we go on the last 2 corners now. It's going to be victory for Wimpinator at Hockenheim Classic GP. And what a race it was. He comes across the line with 2.2 litres in his fuel tank. And he's cracking up a burnout on the main straight there. Waffles is going to come home in P2. So unlucky not to maintain P1 off the line there, because he did come in for a drive-through penalty. We've got our end of race shenanigans there. He's lost the tyre, Waffles. We've got Short Fuse coming home in P3, and he's only got 1.2 litres of fuel. So they've really done the calculations here. And that's John Dog in the mid-sector now, and he's currently under pressure by Blue XR8 behind. So it's going to be a lot of risk versus reward for Blue XR8. He's still in with a chance to get up in the P4. He's really on the attack, but he's only got 2 litres left in his tank. And we're only on the back straight now. I don't think he's going to make it home. He's not going to make it home. As he tries to go down the inside, but he can't get it under brakes. And that's John Dog gone very deep under brakes, and he's really stuffed up the chicane there. Now trying to do it on the outside is Blue XR8. That's the more grippier side of the track as we head into the fast right-hander here, and he's got him under brakes, but he goes in way too deep and he's went out wide. And that's done and dusted for him in the battle for P4. And actually, he is going to make it across the line, but I don't think he's going to have anything left. So across the line now, John Dog goes P4. P5 for Blue XR8. He comes across the line with 0.1 litres in the fuel tank. He's really done his homework in terms of calculations there for pit strategies. That's Dimple coming home in P6. Cheese Noodles in P7. Someone awesome. He moved up in the P8 after spending majority of his time in P10. Sparky God coming home in P9. Voodoo in P10. And Aussie about to cross the line in P11. So that will conclude the 11 car grid for the feature race here at Hockenheim Classic GP. So there are your unofficial results there. Fastest lap goes to Wimpinator at the top as well. So 1:53.5 was the quickest. No, it wasn't. It was actually held by Short Fuses 1:53.3. So definitely apologise for stuffing it up there. So there are your finishing order. Couple DNS because they didn't make it across the line in time. I think Voodoo didn't have enough field to the end. So that has been round 2 of the Bush League Racing's LMP2 series. So we'll get to the next week's slide to see what we've got in store for next Monday night. Not this one. So here it is. So next week, round 3, we'll be racing at the Le Mans Vintage track. So that is a DLC track. So I hope all the drivers have that. And that will start at 7:55 Australian Eastern Standard Time next Monday night. So in the meantime, we have our next live stream coming up on Sunday night with the Xfinity and NASCAR Sunday Series, as well as the Pagnian GT3 Series hosted by Race and Oz. So I hope to see you guys